This episode of the Reality Check podcast has been brought to you by my listeners, Patreons, and friends. If you'd like to find out more about how you can support the podcast and get some cool rewards, head over to patreon.com/Zach P. Phillips. Atelophobia. The fear of imperfection. The fear of not being good enough. Crippling inaction. Stuttered words. No self-worth. The fear of failure causing failure. Not inability, talent, or lack of opportunity. Just fear. Just an anxiety. Just unattainable standards. Standards put upon by myself. Standards forced upon me by the world. Others can fail. Others can be imperfect. Others can have fun. Just stop. Please don't placate me. I know no one cares about that stuff. I know we all make mistakes. I know I'm only human. Reason doesn't stop the thoughts. By definition, a phobia is illogical. My only solace comes from the diagnosis, knowing that I'm not alone, perfectly imperfect, together. So that's a short poem I wrote called Atelophobia. So just for clarification purposes here, I've not been diagnosed with this, but I can certainly relate to it. Remember, mental health is on a spectrum, and diagnosis comes when you're impacted by something to such an extreme that it disrupts your functionality, disrupts your norm, it impacts your life in a particular and strong way. So I don't have it to that extreme. But I certainly am impacted by feelings or this concept of perfectionism, this concept of wanting to always do more, the concept of not being good enough. And I wrote this poem because I wanted to express the feelings that I have relating to this, this lack of self-worth, this feeling of not being good enough, this fear of imperfection that I see inside myself. When I was growing up, I had a lot of responsibility placed upon me, and I took a lot of responsibility upon myself. And this is sort of a self-fulfilling circle, because the more responsibility you take on yourself, the more responsibility is put upon yourself, and it circles, particularly as a child, until you get the feeling that it's like, hey, I can do all this on my own. At least this is what happened to me. And I ended up moving out of home at 15 because I thought, I can do this better than what I'm seeing. I can do this better than my parents. And maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong, but it led me to having a very strong sense of the need for self-reliance, and also therefore a strong front, because there's a lot of bravado that goes into moving out of home so early, and I couldn't easily admit that I made a mistake or that I was struggling, because then the instant response is, well, why'd you move out, right? And it's like it's more complex than that, obviously, because there's issues upon issues and things all interlock and interrelate. But a level of it became me sort of needing to prove to myself and to the world that I can do this on my own. So therefore, I became quite controlling, of myself, a bit of a control freak, and not feeling comfortable making mistakes, and not feeling comfortable failing, and having stupidly high standards upon myself and upon the people that I let into my life as well. And that leads to a lot of issues because, like I sort of alluded to there, I am just human. People do make mistakes. People do falter and fail and fall. And that's okay. That's what I'm sort of learning. But my God, is that a hard lesson to learn? I feel like we're wired from, early childhood to sort of have the personality and the disposition and the beliefs and sort of the world outlook that you sort of carry on into adulthood. And, you can switch and you can sort of like twist and change and sort of prod at that, but it's relatively stable. So to work to unpick that, to change, to be okay with failure, to be okay with critique, to be okay with all of that sort of stuff is quite hard. And, it's led to a lot of problems. I remember when I first started university, I struggled at it. It was hard for me. And rather than sort of pushing through, I went to just quit. And then I tried working full time, and I couldn't handle that. My mental state couldn't handle it. And so then I went back to uni, and luckily was able to push through and just pass that first semester, and then sort of get into the groove of uni. Got used to it, but that was quite challenging and quite hard. And I realized that I sort of I used to at least run from failure. I used to avoid it. I used to take the easy path. And overcoming that has taken a lot of different sort of approaches to myself. There's a few that I would like to sort of highlight. The first I want to talk about is writing. I'm in the process of writing a fiction book called Lucidity. This is a novel, and the reason I'm going down this path, or the reason I started writing fiction, was because I knew it would be hard, and I wanted to challenge myself. I'm enjoying the process, but my God, is it hard, and it's confronting. Every time I go to write, I'm like, it's hard, and it should be hard, but it's the challenge that it is giving me is quite good, because it's making me face the fact that I might fail, and people may not read it, and it might not be good. I might not finish it. There's a lot of things that may not work, but it's still worth pursuing, because that's part of life. It is okay to fail. It is okay to do these things, but it's sort of like I had to go into it knowing that it might not turn out well, but I'm just going to give it a shot anyway. I had to go into it with that approach. And that's the approach that I'm taking with it. But unfortunately, my brain being what it is, I then get this sort of ego trip of like forgetting that I'm doing it because it's hard, and just looking at it and going, why isn't this easier for me? And my brain starts twisting on itself. But it's been good. The same thing has happened with my martial art, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Every time you train, you risk and you do lose. Someone gets you into a position and puts a submission hold on you, and you tap out. And tapping out is basically calling mercy, crying uncle. So it's like saying, hey, you win. And I realized when I was training that I was avoiding the more challenging opponents. And I said that to my coach, and that I wanted to be pushed and I need to push myself more. And he's like, yeah, I get you. He went through a similar thing where he realized that he had to face if he wanted to grow, if he wanted to learn, if he wanted to get better as a martial artist, get better as a person, he had to face those challenges head on. Because here's the thing, like, if you're afraid of failure and you let that fear run you, you're going to forever be fearful. You're going to forever be avoiding the challenge. You're going to be forever just taking the easy route. And whilst that might be comforting, you're never going to grow. And if you don't grow, you're going to stay where you are. Now, you might stay in that comfortable rut, but is that at the end of your life a success? Or have you actually, if you did just live that comfortable, easy life and not risk failure, wouldn't that be considered the ultimate failure because you didn't sort of live up to your potential because you were afraid? That's the sort of way I look at it, with the writing, with the martial arts, with everything I'm doing. It's like, well, I might fail, but I might succeed. But regardless, it's worth a try. May as well. Like, what have I got to lose? Like, we're not coming away, we don't get out of this alive, right? We may as well try. So that's sort of my little reasoning here with this concept of the fear of imperfection, the fear of not being good enough. I know a lot of people that DM me talk about this same fear, and I feel like it comes from, in part, trauma and having to realize that you have to pull yourself out of it, and then wanting to prove to yourself and to the world that you're okay and that you can handle yourself, because you know, or at least you think you know, that people won't be there for you other than yourself. So you have to be strong. You have to get it right. Because, for some of us, that's all we had. We had to. Otherwise, you go hungry. Otherwise, you fall into a dangerous traps. Otherwise, you fall into another victim of another abuser. Like you do have to look after yourself. So there is a level of striving for certain goals that you do and you must take. So I can see that it comes from there. But once again, like those helpful mechanisms that helped keep you alive and helped you to survive may not be so useful when you want to thrive. Okay, it might be worth reevaluating. Go, do I need to pull back on this? And if you do, how can I? I've given you a couple of examples that I use. The act of trying something that I thought was impossible, writing, and the martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because it is a humbling experience. But you can find that from a variety of different things, from different social groups and sports particularly. So anyway, with that in mind, I'll read you the poem Atelophobia one more time. If you want to read along, you can click the link down below and check it out. Atelophobia, the fear of imperfection, the fear of not being good enough, crippling inaction, stuttered words, no self-worth, the fear of failure causing failure, not inability, talent, or lack of opportunity, just fear, just anxiety, just unattainable standards, standards put upon by myself, standards forced upon me by the world. Others can fail. Others can be imperfect. Others can have fun. Just stop. Don't placate me. I know no one cares about that stuff. I know we all make mistakes. I know I'm only human. Reason doesn't stop the thoughts. By definition, a phobia is illogical. My only solace comes from the diagnosis, knowing that I'm not alone, perfectly imperfect, together. So I just wanted to just add a little bit to this that I didn't quite discuss, is my only solace comes from the diagnosis, knowing that I'm not alone. This is part of the reason why I talk and share and do all the stuff I'm doing online, is to know that you're not alone. Mental health is, or mental illness rather, is far more common than you would think. And the more we share and open up and talk about it, the less stigma there will be about it. And the more I talk, the more I know, and the more I connect with people who are saying like, hey, I've been through this, I feel this, you're talking, basically my experiences. You're not alone. And beyond that, getting, treatment does help, and getting a diagnosis can help you to know that it's like, hey, there is a way out of this. So if you're struggling, if you've got an issue, please seek professional assistance. Talk to them. Say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Be as open and honest as you can. Shop around till you find a good one, and then work with them to get yourself sorted. Get a diagnosis. Do something about it. Yeah? If you like the podcast and you want to support it, head over to patreon.com/ZachPHillips, and you'll be able to see a bunch of cool rewards for the supporters there, or just, support it for $1 a month. If you think this podcast is worth $1 a month, it would really help out. Might be insignificant on your end. I hope it is. But on my end, collectively, it would make a massive difference. So that would be a great help. And yeah, and I would also appreciate if you could rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to it, and share it with someone who you think it would help. Cheers.